Welcome to another episode of the Process and Automation podcast. And all our listeners out there know we are extremely passionate about all things process and automation. So hence, we can't stop recording new episodes as it seems. So today we will be talking about the key drivers that are influencing the future of process optimization. And as we all know, the field of process optimization is constantly evolving. So what's driving these changes? We have identified a couple of the key drivers that are shaping the future of this particular field. On top of that, we are also taking a look at the emerging trends that are making process optimization more accessible to a wider range of people. And we think this is kind of a big deal, and we are excited to share our thoughts on this. So let's get started. Yeah, as you know, process automation, process optimization is not exactly new out there. So we have business process management as a topic for decades now. Arno and myself, we are in that field as well, pretty much as long as this term business process management exists. And we know it builds on other software automation approaches from before that. But there are a couple of new factors that are kicking process automation adoption into pretty much the high gear and make it more widely used. So we are talking democratized development, the rise of digital nomads, automation fabric, really cool term. So we talk about that in a little bit, and a bunch of new improved optimization and automation tools out there. So these factors are really changing the future of process automation. That's for sure. So Arno, let's jump into the first driver we identified.
Thanks, Sasha. Yeah, great intro. And the first one we want to touch on is really looking at this notion of a democratized development. And, this can be done through low-code tools. So these are traditional sort of drag and drop workflow, human-to-human type tools, case management. Then, of course, the digital process automation. That is actually the process automation on the back end that actually drive the outcomes of these processes. And then also robotic process automation, or RPA for our listeners that hasn't heard that before. So again, the democratization of development is really accelerating out there, and a lot of companies out there are actively going out and giving business people the tools to develop applications themselves as part of this new business developer strategy. There's a recent survey I looked out on the internet, and it showed that 29%, so almost 30%, of senior developers that they surveyed said that their firm directly encourages and support this non-traditional developers to create software inside the business. And that's, of course, using this low-code developer strategy. And it's also used to recruit new talent. So it's not just reserved for the techies. It's also, reaching out to these business developer community or future business developer community out there. And again, most recently, we've seen the emergence of what's now called the citizen process expert, or CPE. I think there's a lot of terminology being thrown out there. We've heard the term citizen developer before. So as things evolve and the trends evolve, we're getting new labels for these things. But it's essentially, these business-focused optimization experts that can potentially drive real value, but they also raise new questions, especially around governance and training and so on and so forth. So again, if we look at what the strategy is for this approach to work, the first point is we need an automation strategy. We've talked a lot about this on the podcast as well. Strategize, kind of get your strategy in place, get your goals in place. The second thing is automation governance. We don't want proliferation of these single silo automation initiatives. We want to have a kind of firm governance around, especially IT governance, security governance, change management. So it's really kind of looking at that piece, creating some really good frameworks, and so on and so forth. The next one is really kind of skills models and training tuition programs with inside the business. So this approach really demands almost that as a kind of cornerstone as well. And this needs to be very rewarding programs. So there needs to be some reimbursement programs. And then really the fourth point is the convergence of all these tools and the ability for the business developers to use them first. So, you need to have that kind of enablement. All of that coming together will really then, in terms of, you talked about the factors that will define the future of process automation. And of course, I've just talked about democratized development. This all kind of nicely brings that together for you.
Yeah, and one of the other points I just mentioned earlier. So we have the rise of digital nomads out there. So one of the factors is digital nomads, more empowered employees, and of course the gig economy. So this trend is happening around us, of course. So more and more people will be out there as a digital nomad. So if you don't know what a digital nomad is, so these are usually freelancers in the field, experts in the field, and they are sort of independent to a certain location. So they just basically join a project, maybe from New York, and doing something there for a couple of months, and then maybe they're working in Portugal for another 2 months and working on a project there. So these independent and remotely working digital nomads available around the world allows to be very flexible as a company, or when you have projects going on. So they are paid pretty much for that one project and assignment. So you will keep very, very flexible with that, and and it gives you the opportunity to bring in more staff when needed, because suddenly people are around the world available for you, and that will ensure that things are running more smoothly, so you don't have these pains sometimes to just recruiting in the local market. So, but those kind of people are usually experts in the field. They are the process experts. You can just get into your project. It will definitely help you to get your projects done more effectively, faster. So generally, this new type of working and the changed requirements when it comes to project work, especially in that expert field, if you bring both worlds together, it is pretty much a win-win situation for everyone. So that's what we're seeing as a key factor, and it will most certainly grow going forward.
The next one in these factors that would shape the future of process automation is this emergence of the so-called automation factory, or fabric rather. So again, if we look at digital transformation, it's sort of entered a new phase in which automation becomes a critical competency out there, and a very, very competitive and compelling differentiator between different organizations. And as companies out there go beyond just automating kind of point task solutions or processes towards the goal of a fully automated autonomous enterprise, they will need to evolve into what's called a digital fabric that really weaves together their workforce, their processes, technology, and in really promoting a automation first culture. So digital fabric is really a kind of a collection of diverse but sort of co-evolving automation technologies, as robotic process automation, low-code tools, process intelligence. We've got chatbots out there, machine learning, and all of that is really kind of woven into our sort of traditional application layer. So if we look at an application and we sort of build it with components, all of these emerging technologies are being kind of made available and woven into that. So, and again, this sort of abstract features and functionality of the underlying applications to make them more accessible for, I guess, a broad spectrum of users and these business developers. So, again, it's this kind of availability and this enablement of these underlying, I guess, strands of the automation fabric that is made available, and that's that kind of like a key driver for, like I said, promoting this automation first culture.
Interesting. And the next key driver out there is the emergence of process mining and process discovery tools. There are a couple of vendors, or lots of vendors out there now focusing on making these tools easier to use and more accessible for business users. We talk about process mining and process discovery here a lot as well, because it's sort of the starting point for process optimization initiatives. And in addition, these mining tools have really matured over the years, and process and task mining provide objective and automated insights into what's going on at the business, how processes are really running, and process modeling and documentation tools. Will help teams to collaborate better. Those kind of tools will really become a huge part of continuous process improvement in companies. Definitely something to get started with if you haven't done so.
So I guess in summary, sort of the kind of trends we've just touched on is, like you opened with this podcast earlier, and the first one I mentioned is democratized development. So again, that's these business developers that we talked about, the digital nomads, the gig economy, kind of people having readily access to low-code tools to build things. Every day there seems to be 10 more products on the market that you can build very, very interesting and compelling applications. Automation fabric's really just the sort of the collective progressive technologies that's woven into our application layer that enables us to really take advantage and make these technologies mainstream and make us think about using these technologies when we adopt automation first culture. And then you just touched on, again, the proliferation really of process mining tools and process discovery tools. This is a very, very big trend that's becoming a lot more mainstream now. We see a lot of people are effectively moving towards sort of digital discovery rather than doing manual discovery. There is still a space for manual discovery, but of course, as the automation trends evolve and the need for quick identification of potential automation candidates, of course, process mining is a sort of a go-to methodology for that.
We will have another episode coming up very, very soon, and until then, let's automate it. Unfortunately, that's it again with this episode of the Process and Automation podcast. If you liked this episode, please give us a 5-star rating, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any upcoming episode. We hope you will tune in next time, and until then, let's automate it.